Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I'm Haley Panagakis, an editor here at Connect, and I'd like to thank you today for joining us. We have a great session planned, but first I'd like to point out a few features you can use throughout the presentation. You can type in your questions for Jared by using the comment box on the left-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout the session. We're also going to have a Q&A session at the end, so you can hold your questions at the end as well. You can also use that comment box to give us feedback, which we would love to have. A recorded version of this session will be available on our website, and there will be more information about future webinars and education opportunities at the end of the program, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank the Providence-Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau for making today's presentation possible. I'm going to read a quick message on their behalf today. We're all learning that social media isn't just for millennials anymore. It's an important channel of communication that has affected how and how much we talk to customers. The Providence-Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau works with its clients to create a social media strategy that's the right fit for each of its individual groups. From a single welcome on Instagram to a personalized Facebook page to a question and answer session conducted via Twitter, the Providence-Warwick CVB helps customers talk directly to their audiences. To find out more about how the Providence-Warwick CVB's meetings and services may benefit you, please visit goprovidence.com and click on Meetings at the top of the page. Now, it's my privilege to formally introduce our speaker for today, Jared Beard. Jared has been a super nerd from the minute he and his evil twin brother hacked at the innards of their Commodore 64. With more than 20 years as a youth leader, educator, paradigm shifter, and IT mega geek, Jared has been at the bleeding edge of all the good and bad the internet has offered. As a web/media business owner, information technology director, and instructor in MBA and MSIS programs at Kelley School of Business at Indiana University, Jared has managed, designed, implemented, and analyzed projects from server-side hardware and software virtualization to CRM email marketing systems interacting with every constituent at Indiana University. He will also be one of many speakers at our upcoming Connect Marketplace in Grapevine, Texas on August 25th through 27th. A victim of thousands of hours of dull and humorless education, Jared entertains and challenges audiences while sneaking in just enough theory and real-world knowledge to help planners hash out their next step into this brave new world. Jared, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
My line is now unmuted. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? Just give me a quick response there in the chat. Anything from good to ready for some more coffee to need to be home. I went morel hunting yesterday. We didn't find a thing, but we still had fun, and I was not working that day. So it was good. The morels, they're just not ready yet, you know? They pop up when the rain comes, so we didn't get any, but we had a fun day yesterday. How's everyone feeling? Social media, right? We're here to talk about that professional line, that personal line, that fine line. It's a gray area sometimes for some of us, and so today I want to kind of walk everyone through just some good, some bad, you know, the kind of that tourist trip, if you will, around the city of social media and how we deal with social media in our personal lives and our professional lives. And I've got some great examples. I've got some absolutely gut-wrenching examples that will make you just feel terrible for some of these folks. But then we're going to talk about some of the do's and don'ts, and as an organization, how you can deal with social media and you know, walking that fine line between the things. So Haley, thank you again for having me, and for Go Providence for sponsoring things today. That's great. And so without any further ado, I will get started with some takeaways from today's presentation. So the main thing, there are two major points here that we have from my presentation today. And the first one is, I want you through the chat session to meet 3 people, okay? Introduce yourselves, say hi to people, but then connect with those people on LinkedIn. These people are important resources to you, and you guys are all here for a common purpose. You all have common goals. You all have common problems. And so I guess I want you to use the chat session to, you can do two things at a time, obviously, on these webinars. So I want you to connect, meet up with people, connect with these folks through LinkedIn. And then our key takeaways for today are there are 5 of them. And so as we walk through the minefield that can be social media and your use of social media, the first thing I would like to let you know is that I want you to be comfortable. Feel free to push out a chat or a question. Haley will moderate those for us as we go through the session. I want you to know that I'm comfortable. I'm actually presenting in my underwear right now, and that's why we're not doing this through webcam. So just keep that image in your mind. You know, they say that's the way to feel comfortable when you're presenting to an audience. Well, I'm actually in my underwear right now in my home as I'm presenting. So, you know, I feel comfortable that we all know that now and that we're closer, you know. So we're going to get started here. So I want to give you another example of someone who felt as though they were walking around the entire world in their underwear. And this is a young lady named Justine Sacco. So Justine was a younger professional. She was familiar with social media. She actually worked at a social media marketing company. And she was taking a trip to South Africa. She was traveling from the United States to South Africa. She had some family there. As she was heading along, she started tweeting some things. You know, she had roughly 250 followers, maybe 170 followers at the most. And this was her first tweet. Weird German dude. You're in first class. It is 2014. Get some deodorant, please. Inner monologue as I inhale BO. Thank God for pharmaceuticals. Funny young lady, has a sense of humor, obviously. Her next tweet, chili cucumber sandwiches, bad teeth. I must be back in London. I would, if I were following Justine, I'd say there's probably some truth to that. I don't know if any of you have any travel in London, but that's funny. So Justine continues here as she continues her final leg of the trip from Heathrow to Cape Town. And she says, going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Well, Justine thought this was funny. She was tweeting it to 170 people, which really isn't that many people. But as you all know, there is no such thing as privacy on the internet. There is no such thing as a private group of 170 followers. And when all is said and done, there was a meltdown that ensued. So some of you may be aware that it's about a 12-hour flight from Heathrow to South Africa. Mid-flight, upon landing, she came to the other side of the world and realized that a few things had happened since she had tweeted that. Understand, she was in complete communication silence. She had no internet on the plane. She had no text messages. She had no cell phone. She was probably watching a movie, taking a nap, who knows what. But she woke up to land and find multiple texts from friends and acquaintances informing her that her tweet had gone viral and that she was actually in a situation at this point. She didn't realize that she was in a situation. Her friends alerted her that she was the #1 trending topic on Twitter in the world. 170 followers, right? She soon learned that there was a hashtag that was part of that #1 trending following. Has Justine landed yet, right? I mean, the world is in suspense. Has she landed? Is she on the ground yet? Does she know what firestorm her tweet had set off? Now, to back up a little bit, Justine's family is from South Africa, so she understands the AIDS crisis in South Africa, and I've read up a little bit more about Justine. She was being sarcastically funny in the tweet, but it certainly wasn't communicated that way. So just some stats here about the trending hashtag of has Justine landed yet, and the hashtag Justine Sacco. The entire world was communicating about it. Mind you, this was 2013, December-ish. Thank God someone was there to capture her shame as she walked off the airplane. The internet is fantastic for that. Zach here, top left corner, was there to catch her shame. That's great. We all need someone there to make sure that our shame is trotted out sometimes, and so Justine had Zach there, and so there were a number of internet memes that started popping up. Um, when she landed, she was actually fired from her job before she even landed. She'd received the text, she'd received the email notification that she no longer worked for the company. And interestingly, the company that she worked for was a social media marketing company. A little bit of irony in that situation. Um, she lost her airline miles, I believe, to South Africa, which is really one of the saddest parts of this. So Justine, some internet memes started going around here. How to lose a job in 10 seconds, for example, was one of those. And it's a sad story. This young lady has since she went into a depression spiral. She recognized that the world was making fun of her in a lot of different ways. She picked herself up. She got back on that horse, and now she actually works with groups that do AIDS prevention and AIDS resource work in Africa. She recognized that this was an important issue. She realized she'd made some mistakes, and I think it brought a lot of good out of this. It was certainly a sad scenario, but that fine line that we walk between our professional lives and our personal lives, and how social media can be part of that. This is a very sad example of that. So I think this quote summarizes the situation with Justine. Social media is so perfectly designed to manipulate our desire for approval. And that's what led to her undoing, as we say. Her tormentors were instantly congratulated as they took hit after hit, bit by bit, and brought down Justine Sacco. It's a sad state, knowing that those people, those internet trolls, a lot of folks call them, are sitting out there waiting for people to screw up. But that is the case, and that is the world we live in. It is very easy to do what we call drive-by takedowns, where you just you post something online, you say it, you move on, you can be mean about it. So as we go through this presentation today, I'm going to walk through some of these good examples, some of these bad examples, show you about how status and how all of these needs that we have kind of fit into why social networking and the social status will be part of how we proceed with our brand of who we are online. So these are our 5 takeaways for today. Number one, we need to understand our primitive need for social media. It is primitive. It is certainly manifested in these technological these new technologies that we have, but it is primitive. Number two, we're going to navigate the seas of social media. So how do you do it at work? Our third point, our third takeaway is using social media to influence your professional relationships. How to do that? I'll teach you some rules. I'll show you some basics of how you can use it in your professional life. And then the fourth one here is how to draw that line between professional and personal. And then finally, some best practices as an organization and as an individual, and how you can manage these fine lines between professional and personal. So a little bit of background about me. Haley did introduce me. I wanted to tell you all that I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years. I have seen the good, the bad. Every night I'm sitting up reading about something new that has come out that I'm going to have to learn, or a customer of mine's going to need to work with. And so I've done a lot of consulting work, but I worked for Indiana University for years and helped with social media there. Also did CRM work and IT lab management. I've done about everything. I've kind of got this Swiss Army knife thing happening I'm not even sure what I am anymore. I've learned so many different technologies, but I love it. I really do enjoy it. I'm a Ball State grad. Any Ball State grads out there? Say yes. If I see it in the chat, we'll sing the Ball State fight song together. And I live and breathe this stuff. I really do greatly enjoy seeing folks learn it, working with their small businesses. I sincerely care about how folks are using it. And finally, I really am an exceptional breakdancer. I know it is not a skill that a lot of people are looking for these days, but I was very good at it back in the 80s. So, just keep that in mind when you think about me sitting here giving my presentation. You know how I'm sitting here. So let's transition here to our first point, right? Representing, Gen X, right? So understanding our need for social media, right? It is a primitive thing. It really is. And so I love this quote from a Nobel laureate economist, John Hartnell. Apart from economic payoffs, okay, we're talking about cash money or righteous dollar bills, as they say, Social status really is one of the most important pieces of and motivating forces of social behavior. And some people say that money, as important as it is actually just a substitute for that desire to have social status. So which is it that you want, the money or the status that goes with the money? And so, that's an interesting point about how our behavior affects why we choose and why we use social media. And I love this infographic here. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may update your Facebook status. And that's that status piece, that piece that tells us that we've accomplished something, that we have done something positive in our lives. And so that status is really important. And there are two types of status as we move ahead here. So I've got some info here to talk to you about. There's this ascribed status, which is that place of respect, the age or the race or the caste systems or kinship, for example. And this infographic can give you some examples here of some folks that fall into this category. This third picture from the left, the picture next to the royalty. Does anyone know who this is sitting to the right of the man eating the chicken bones? Put it in the comments if you know who that is. Give you a few seconds to comment. So sitting to the left of him there is Jimmy Carter. That's right. Someone got it right here. And so his buddy sitting to the right, who is that? That's his brother, right? And his only real status was the fact that he was associated with the president of the United States, but he became famous for being that. And that is that type of status that is ascribed. It is part of who you are because of an association. And then our second part of the status that we can accomplish is that achieved status. And this is what we are striving for in our own personal brand in social media, that gift of accomplishment and of our personal characteristics. And here are some people that have achieved these things through what they have done. Important people. And even here to the right, we have two pictures of cats. Does anyone know who these two cats are? Please answer them answer in the chat if you know who they are. I'll watch as the chat session comes on. Yeah, Grumpy Cat to the right, and then to the left is a Bloomington famous cat from Bloomington, Indiana, Lil Bub. So it's funny because Little Bub is a local Bloomington hero. My kids, I've got three little kiddos, 14, Cecilia's 14, Nora is 10, and Jack is 9. Little Bub is a local Bloomington hero. And it's interesting because he actually has achieved status through these unique personal characteristics. This cat, and I'm talking about his owner in particular, when he tweets, when he posts something to Facebook, it can exceed 180,000 likes. Now, you want to talk about status. You want to talk about influence, a high influence. This cat, and Grumpy Cat also, has an achieved status that is actually quite interesting. I know there are some people out there that actually have little plastic blow-up dolls that actually have thousands and thousands of followers on Facebook. And it has something to do with that achieved status, something interesting, something funny, something unique. And so as you decide your personal brand, you have to ask yourself some questions. What about you is going to be unique? What about you is going to give you that separating piece that's going to define your status online? And so we'll talk about some of those ways to do that further on here in the presentation. And so when we talk about status, it is important to understand our need for community. And our need for community is important because our need for social engagement starts with community. And so I like this infographic here on the right because we talk about the benefits of high social connection, increases in longevity. I mean, we live longer, higher self-esteem, higher empathy, higher emotional regulation skills, positive feedback loops of that important feeling that we are doing something positive. The dangers of low social connection. This is often referred to as the Ted Kaczynski syndrome. we isolate ourselves. We have higher blood pressure, higher obesity levels, slower recovery from disease, higher anxiety and depression. So, our need for social goes beyond our extension of our community, or our need for our community. It's an extension of our community. And it's also something that we need for real connections or for reconnections. We often reconnect with our friends on Facebook, business associates. It is very important for you to maintain those business associations and those contacts and those connections, but understand that people do not want to be sold to. And so as we think about why we are online, selling does not help us generate real connections. Educating sincerely, pushing information or advising or providing information to people is really what helps engage those real connections. So understand that, and I'll harp on this throughout the presentation, that selling is not the point of these social connections. It can be a long-term strategy in terms of your ability to advise or to persuade and to use your influence. But real connections do not involve sales. And so just be aware of that as you decide your strategy. Our causes and activities that we need, being heard. This is an important piece of it. Our safety, our privacy, our ability to control things, and then the level playing field that gives us that in-crowd connection and lets us feel that sense of success and accomplishment. And so these are critical pieces of how we design our strategy for social connections. And this is something that, Justine Sacco was using her Twitter account as essentially a way to broadcast information to friends. She was not using it to build her personal brand in any way, and she didn't realize that those tweets were going to get out in such a way and cause such a commotion in her social media. And so, interestingly, Justine still has a huge amount of influence in the industry and in social because of what she went through. So if we can pull ourselves up, if we make mistakes, and there certainly can be, if there are things that are misinterpreted, we can accommodate, and we can make amends from those situations and move forward. And so, with Justine in mind, I would certainly like to talk to you now about some of the mistakes that people make in social, and so it could be that the purpose of your life really is only to serve as a warning to other people, and that's a sad statement, but it could very well be true. So I think one of the first examples is a young man probably took a job at Taco Bell, needed some money, posted some information out to his Facebook account or to maybe Instagram. Who knows what the kids under 20, 25 are using Instagram these days. And so, if any of you went to Taco Bell today, geez, I really hope in the future you'll rethink that. This is a hard one to swallow here, as the title says. Young fella, just out doing his job, right, having some fun. And now he claims that these tacos fell on the floor. They weren't actually put into to human consumption, but who knows? Actually, I'm not a big Taco Bell fan. My guess is it would make Taco Bell taste better if they fell on the floor, but that's just my opinion. Another young lady, probably one of your kids' school teachers, I'm guessing, was out in her car on a break, talking about how hot her students are in class and how she likes to smoke weed. She's in Denver, right? This is legal. This is basically no different than going out and taking an ibuprofen, I guess. And so I believe this young lady was eventually fired from her position, and that's sad. You're not going to see any hot guys anymore, but she can still smoke weed as much as she wants these days, right? So this is not the best use of social media and your brand or your influence. Be aware that those pieces are seen by people. So one of the suggestions I might make to you is that you have a private Facebook account that is specifically for your friends, and then another Facebook account that is specifically for business if you choose to get into Facebook and to use it in that respect. And so we'll talk about some of those best practices here shortly. So another example here was a bank employee, young fella. Kevin sends an email to Kevin sends an email to his boss, Jill, and says, Paul and Jill, just want to let you know something came up. I'm not going to be able to come into work tomorrow. I apologize, but I'm not going to be able to come up. Paul, his boss, responds, says, hey, let us know if everything's okay. Hope everything's all right. By the way, cool wand, right? So it turns out that Kevin had forgotten that he was friends with Paul on the Facebook, right? So Paul just sends him a note and says, hey, looking good. I'm not sure where you're partying. You're probably in New York, but have fun, right? And I'm sure there was a follow-up email in here that said, don't worry about coming back on Monday. And so this is another really really important point to be aware of as you go through social media. Everything you post, everything you do, those important pieces of information that you're pushing out through your life story, it can come back to haunt you. So just be aware of that as you're choosing to engage in social media. This is something that can come back around and bite you in the butt. So I have one last example here, one last bad example here, and it is let's see here. So I think we have that one in there. So we have some examples here of people that have had some issues. Top 10 things to avoid during work: drinking alcohol in a photo. Georgia teacher was asked to resign. Complaining about your job. Young fellow was complaining about how shredding paper sucks. His profile was public. He was asked to stop shredding paper, right? If it sucks that badly. Posting while working, tweeting during meetings is definitely a no-no. Making fun of your boss. I believe the Pittsburgh Pirates mascot was fired for doing this. Interestingly, he has a union. Apparently there's some sort of union that protected him, and when all was said and done, it was considered a free speech thing. But I believe when all was said and done, he chose to not continue being the mascot for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Making fun of clients, for example. I believe one fella mocked a $1 donation from a client, actually put in some names, and that didn't go very well with his company. And so, I think common sense here is a good question. Does it exist? And I think with the under 30 demographic, under 25 demographic, it actually may not exist anymore. I believe that there are times when there's this feeling of invulnerability that they just, that nothing can take them down. And so, these are some great examples. Mocking a job before you accept the job. For example, a young fella posted that he hates the work, but he loves the money. Well, they made it real easy for him. He doesn't get to do the work, and he'll miss the money. One of the other examples here is blowing your own cover. Our example that we showed here, a young fella who something came up, he couldn't make it into work. Well, it turns out he was off having a party somewhere in New York. So revealing company clients or secrets. I love this example, something along these lines. Hey, thanks for posting and depositing this money into this account. This is the kind of thing that seems absurd, but apparently this was actually an actual tweet linked to a bank employee. So yes, is common sense gone? I think it might actually be. I think it might actually be gone. I suspect that this was an act of reprisal or retribution or something along those lines. So just be aware. These are important things to be aware of. Sexual oversharing. People have sexual lives. They are typically considered private. Unless you are a sex trade worker, that's okay. That's part of your decision. It's a decision you've made in your life. That's fine to post those things. Otherwise, typically, most of us do not care about your sexual escapades. We just don't post them on Facebook. Don't post them on Twitter. Don't use them to post about your private sexual fetishes. It's just not something we really want to know. Embarrassing the company, for example. I believe there was a tweet from a young fella who said that Detroit may be the Motor City, but the residents here drive like beep. And so we'll bleep out that last part. Haley, sorry that. Anyone from Detroit out there, can they confirm this or deny this? I'm not sure. I know that there are a lot of international students that come to Bloomington, and the driving gets pretty bad when they show up, but after a while they figure it out. So this is an important piece to understand, and these are interesting but ridiculous examples of what can be shared through social media. These do not help your personal brand, obviously. So I think the best example that I can give you here is of a gentleman named Guy Kawasaki. And I love this guy. This guy started out with Stephen Jobs years ago as one of the first real design employees from Apple. Uh, uh, he has an amazing skill set in design, but he also has this unbelievable following in social media. If someone wants to look it up, I'd like to know how many followers he has on Twitter and how many folks follow him or like his stuff on Facebook. I don't have that information in here, but he has a book out there specifically on the art of social media. He has had good and bad tweets, but he knows the importance of managing the relationship and strengthening the relationship in social media. Stanford grad, MBA from UCLA, college roommate and buddy of Steve Jobs. Achieved status, right? This is not ascribed. This guy worked hard at everything he did. Very intelligent guy, very, very nice, diplomatic, and is known for managing and maintaining relationships in social media. Best-selling author, and that is a result of that ascribed status. Social media guru. There's no arguing that. He speaks all over the United States, and I have heard is an exceptional speaker. So he has okay. So here we go. I did have some of these stats in here. 1.5 million, 300,000 plus Facebook likes. Just a very powerful man in social media, and he has earnestly developed that subscriber base in his social media. This brand of who he is. As a matter of fact, he is beyond a design consultant anymore. Now he is a social media guru, and he always is talking about planting the seeds and focusing on the relationship. So, and so this is by far the best of how to use. And someone points out here, quality, not quantity. I completely agree with that. That quality piece of how you develop that relationship and how you use that relationship to influence and to not sell, but to earnestly and to completely focus on the other people's needs. That is the key to it. So as we move along, it's important to understand that Facebook is an important piece of Facebook, social media, this practicing of non-blatant self-promotion. This is the key to how you can to extend your brand, how you can to extend your influence. Often people refer to it as your ROI, your return on influence, and that is an important piece to understand. And so I have some guidelines here. This is also referred to as duct tape marketing. So basically, as you are blatantly non-self-promoting, you are earnestly educating, you are earnestly engaging, working with people who are high influencers. That duct tape style marketing is what brings people to you. It ties people to you. It's an adhesive, if you will. So I like this example here. Wine is to women as duct tape is to men. It fixes everything, right? So the examples I'll give you here are the 5-3-2 rule, and this is also the 50-30-20 principle. So you can look at it as a percentage, or you can memorize it as 5-3-2. And so this rule basically says 50% of the content that you push out via social media is from other people. This is attributed content that you are talking about, and that you are giving an attribute or giving credit to those folks that are producing this content. Infographics work very well. People are highly engaged with digital content, with visual content. That second percent there, that 30% is content from you. This might be lessons learned. This might be information that you're currently researching for the position that you're in. And then finally, there is a percentage, and it'd be, albeit a small one, is that 20%, or the 2 rule of personal sharing. And for example, this would be an example of giving a webinar today. Looking forward to it. Here's the link below. This would be a personal share. I'm helping to promote the brand. I'm helping to promote the content, and I'm earnestly doing my best to hope that the folks that are following me on Twitter will come to the session and learn something from it. And so be aware of this rule as you begin your strategy or your branding for your own social media. That 5-3-2 rule: content from others, content from you, and then personal content. And so as we think about this rule, we also have to think about time management, FaceTime or screen time. If you have kids, I'm sure you do, go ahead and in the chat, just put the number of how many kids you have. Like, I've got 3 of them. You've learned about my 3. Some of you may have 5 of you. Some may have 3. Some may have 2. But those kids have screen time rules. I know my kids do. I often catch them hiding under a sheet, doing something on Instagram. But they've got screen time rules. So as you think about how you spend your time in social media, you might want to set up some screen time rules for yourself. I think I saw 6 go by. Someone's got 6. Goodness, how much screen time? Goodness, that's crazy. So think about how you spend your time. And I love this infographic because it talks about the difference between spending time and the difference between investing in time. And so how we use social networks. So if we are spending time, we might be socializing in it. We might be using it to stay in touch. We might be watching Little Bub post a photo of Little Bub getting a bath. Who knows, right? Little Bub's a hero. If he gets a bath, I want to see that. And then finally, killing time. But then the opposite of this is this purposeful mindset of how we invest our time, and that is, how do you maintain your professional identity? Are you using the 5-3-2 rule? Making useful contacts, and that's what I'm hoping you're doing today. I hope you're engaging with some folks through this webinar and learning and meeting some folks through LinkedIn, using LinkedIn, preferably not Facebook. We'll keep it more professional. And then those searching for opportunities, and those are opportunities beyond just new jobs or job placement. We're talking about opportunities to help folks, opportunities for a cause, opportunities that might your organization might be able to help a group. We have a Boys and Girls Club here in Bloomington that is right now in the process of putting together a social campaign that we helped design for building out a new facility in Bloomington for kids that are high risk kids on the west side of Bloomington. And so we are putting together a campaign that involves the local businesses pushing out to their social networks to try to get people to donate their time, not their money, because the Boys and Girls Clubs needs people's time more than they need money. And the Boys and Girls Club has quite a bit of data on how fulfilling that is to people who spend time with these kids. So they're putting together some programs. Now, ultimately, they hope that the people who are dedicating that time to the program will eventually feel good, feel obligated, and provide some financial resources to that program. But that's not what they're asking for. They are asking for their time. So how are you searching for opportunities in ways for your organization or for your personal brand to communicate these types of opportunities to folks and connect people? Be a connecting force, and then using that connecting force or that influence to stay in touch with the folks in your demographic area. And so, if you would, here's a map. My next slide is a map on how to develop a process that is equal parts structured and equal parts creative. So here's an example of your ability to use your influence. Remember that ROI concept, your return on influence. Official channels, right? These are organization official channels. The reach of an organization is typically limited more so than the reach of an individual, or what's referred to as employee amplification. And the reason for that is employees, individuals, we have a much greater resource network within our professional and our personal resources. So if you would, in the chat session, post for me how many friends you have on Facebook, and I'll just see this number come up. If you know this number, right? I happen to know the number. Mine is around 500. Okay, and I actually know all these people. It's hard to believe, but some of us have 150, 200. But what's interesting is, as you have a lower number of Facebook friends, you actually have a higher level of influence, because those people are very important to you. And those people will, if you push something out to them, there is about an 80% chance that those people will be engaged with the content that you push out to them. For example, I used to work at the Kelley School of Business in our email marketing program. We would buy a list. The list would be students who had taken the GREs or the LSATs or the certain graduate level exams. Those lists would be upwards of 100,000 people, 100,000 students roughly between the ages of 20 to 40. When we would send out an email blast, about 0.5% of those people would respond. This is 0.5%. And so be aware that social amplification has the ability to reach a much greater audience than official channel notification. I think I just saw someone scroll past with 1,700 friends. There's a Facebook restraining order, sir, that I'm going to send you. You are obviously just randomly friending people, and it needs to stop. Mark Zuckerberg has a Facebook restraining order. I'm going to send it to you. So be aware, folks, that employee amplification, this is a big piece of how your social reach and your brand can continue to have influence on the people in your professional sphere. So as we talk about how we use our social media influence, one of the things that I want to touch on here is using that influence in your professional relationships. So let's talk about some of the stats here at work. 46% of employees believe that productivity is increased due to social engagement. Now, this is social engagement that is purposeful, that is related to our jobs. 37% of management embrace social tools in order to increase productivity. I know that Apple, Microsoft, Google, a lot of these really big companies have social platforms that are on their back end of their company networks. And these social platforms have high engagement. They have high social influence because these folks have a need to influence, have a need to reach out, and they actually need to have this engagement, but in a private, controlled environment. Okay, so this is really important. 37% of management embraces social tools in order to increase productivity, and this is increasing. There was a UC Irvine study that shows mood, mental focus return due to what's called grazing. Right? Sometimes we get a little bit bored. Our brains we have that siesta time. For me, it's typically around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Does anyone else have that experience? Like right around 3, I need a Coke. I need a sweet tea. I need something. This study kind of said that grazing, what it's referred to as, and this is basically social networking, social media, it has a palate cleansing effect, for example, and that's an important piece of how we look at our day and how we can use our social media influence. So making new business relationships, it strengthens our organizational loyalty and our motivation in a lot of different ways, and it gives us some freedom to engage in a way that we can control how we're engaging in that social media platform. So as we think about these best practices and the process being equal parts structured and creative, remember these points as you build some of your policies within an organization. And this is beyond your personal brand, but applying some organizational policies that are important to maybe the folks that work for you or some of the folks within your organization. Understand first that social media is not intuitive for employees. It is actually a great deal more complex than you'd think. And so it is important to educate those employees and have a policy. These could be videos. These could be tests, that maybe just some basic tests that employees need to go through to understand your policies and your needs and your goals in social media as an organization. So, educate on the overall marketing goal. Inform about those policies that are in place for the starters there. And I'll reference some of those here in just a minute, but in particular, there was a list of about 10 of them. For example, don't tweet about what you're doing, complaining about your job, posting while at work, making fun of a boss, making fun of clients, mocking job before accepting the job, things like that. Those are part of those policies that are best practices. And so as we continue here, maybe video resources are a great way to to teach employees about this. Guide and mentor employees on how to build an audience, right? And so we're doing this today. This is an important part of your education, is how do you build an audience, right? And so we're learning that educating sincerely, using your influence, in finding ways to connect people. Those are ways to build audiences, great ways to build audiences. And so have a list of tasks that folks can do to engage in social media and to build an audience. Teach them to be a thought leader, for example. Now, this depends on at what level they are in your organization, but there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of great ideas. And being a thought leader in social is a great way to position yourself as an educator, as a sincere person who is designing that equal parts structured and creative model, or that brand of who you are in social media. And the final point that I talked about earlier that's really important is don't sell. Remember, it's about the relationship. It's about self-expression. It's about those connections. It is not about sales, but as you find that you have more influence, there are times when you can start to do a very soft sale to the people that are following in your influence. And it's really more, it's not about blatant sales. It is about, it's about influence. And it's about, for example, using a product, using a service that you found was, was helpful maybe in your office, in your work, in your strategy, what have you. So just be aware that that's an important piece of how you're developing those relationships. So I have something I'd like you to do here today. This is kind of one of my final engagements here. So you've made 3 friends, I hope, at least through this webinar. Some of you have 1,700 friends, and that's not what I'm talking about. That's crazy, people. Find your 3 new friends, okay? And I want you to ask them some questions here. Here's their first question that you need to ask them. Number 1, what information do you most want to know that would help you in your job? Okay, that's your first question. I'll leave the slide up here as we get through these 3 questions. What daily type of information would be most helpful to you that could be gathered via social media? Okay, social trends, new security issues, new technology, and the final one here is, you might have your own question that you might want to ask, but this question is about what this person needs to do their job better. So be thinking of a question. And so as you engage with these folks, you can engage with them through private chat, through the chat we have here, through LinkedIn, whatever way you connect. Ask these folks these questions. And the answers are really important because these answers help you develop that audience. When you are filling that need for those people who are part of your social network, the folks who are part of that social network are going to relay your content and push your content and your brand out to their social networks. And that viral lift is the key piece of that. Remember, we are averaging around 500 friends on Facebook or in our social networks. I know that on my LinkedIn profile, because I've done quite a bit of speaking, I have somewhere in the network of 1,000 or so. If I were pushing content to those people, I would have a pretty high likelihood that someone would engage with that content or push that content out themselves, giving us what we call that viral lift. Also, it's an important piece of what we call viral marketing, or that duct tape marketing, right? Planting those seeds and focusing on that relationship. So as you engage with the folks that you have come to know today, I want to thank you so much for coming in and remembering to be here in this session. The final thing that I would ask you about here is your 5-3-2 formula. Don't forget that formula as you are posting through social media and through whichever professional channel you choose works best for you. Remember our key takeaways for today as I summarize. Number 1, what is our need for understanding in social media? Why do we need that? Remember that need for ascribed status, that need for the importance of being recognized, being acknowledged, right? Finally, our second point here is navigating those seas of social media. Recall there were some great examples of what to do, what not to do, understanding our need for community and our need for safety, privacy, and control. Using social media to influence your relationships, right? practicing blatant non-self-promotion is the key to that. And using that rule that we talked about, the 5-3-2 rule, 50-30-20, content from others, content from you, and then personal content. Remember how to draw that line between social media. This is an important piece of it, right? That line is critical. And so those policies that we had talked about, the policies of understanding social media not being intuitive for employees, educating folks sincerely on what those marketing goals are. And remember that fine line also comes on how you choose to use your downtime. If you are grazing, if you will, through spending time and basic entertainment, watching Bub get his nails clipped, that's exciting. I understand that. But it's better to invest your time, right? Don't spend your time. And investing your time has a higher ROI, and that's your return on influence. Maintaining professional identities, making useful contacts, searching for opportunities, and staying in touch with people. So you've made some friends today on social media, right? And through our connections today. And so our final point today is about those best practices for the organization and for the employee. It's critical that you understand, what information do those folks need to do their jobs better, right? What are those best practices for building your social networks? Understanding that we are spending our time instead of we are investing our time instead of spending our time. And so today I would like to conclude: don't be this guy, right? Don't be this Taco Bell guy, right? He had this impulse. He had this disease that he had to post this. He felt like the status that he would get from posting this to his buddies on Facebook was worth the risk, right? And so we just have to remember that it could very well be that his life is to only serve as a warning to others. So thank you very much today, folks, for coming into the session and for listening. You have my contact info here in the session. If any of you have any questions or want some communications about setting up some strategies or speaking events, I'd love to come and speak at any of your events. That would be fantastic. And for now, I will pass the baton back to Haley.
Thanks, Jared. We actually have some time for questions if you want to do a brief little Q&A session.
Sure, that'd be great.
Great. We had some people ask a few questions when you were speaking, so I'm just going to go back and ask those. We had Robert Bowen, he's with us with Connect Meetings. He asked, do you use different social media tools for different purposes? And do you use them all the same? Any details provided would be useful.
Yeah, there are some really great social media tools out there. I didn't touch on, social media tools that I recommend. I certainly have some recommendations and be happy to make those for you. But, Sprout Social, for example, Zoho Social, Hootsuite, these are tools that have evolved a long way from when they started out. They give you the ability through a single pane of glass and for a very cheap software as a service cost per month to manage a lot of your social media. And I do highly recommend these. In particular, Hootsuite, I think, is one of the best ones out there for personal social media. I'm not sure what their pricing is these days, but it used to be that it was about $10 to $20 a month to manage social media. You could set up all of your core social profiles, message scheduling. You could have team members that were working within the program, analytics reporting, a university, if you will, that taught you kind of some of the basics of membership followers and how to develop those. And so I like the Hootsuite product in particular for that. And it's really an inexpensive tool. It also has someone asked a question about how do you spell it. Hoot, Hoot, Suite, Suite. Great product for about $10 a month. And it also has an iPhone app, so you can be connected to your social media. You can schedule tweets out if you're using it from an organizational perspective. So that's a product I definitely recommend.
Thanks, Jared. We also had a question from Charmaine Taylor, who asked, how do you refuse a client or associate who wants to connect on social?
Yeah, the stalker phenomenon. That's a tough one. You can block them through LinkedIn. You can block them through Facebook. You can also very politely, as we do in the Midwest, say, I prefer to use my social network for connections with my business associates. Thank you for your interest in connecting with me, but I choose to use my social for only connections with key people within my business social network. If they don't get the hint, then they have an ulterior motive, and women certainly experience this frequently, where there's a hidden agenda behind social, and that's sad because you don't really know it going in until it starts to devolve in that direction. But as it does devolve, you can draw some very clear lines and say, I prefer we keep this relationship professional. If you cannot keep this relationship professional, you obviously have an ulterior motive, and so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect our connections via social. And you may have to do that sometimes. I know that a number of my business associates who are friends, females, have had to do that before. Some males have to do that. There is a higher interaction rate of females in social than there are males in social, and so that makes it very easy for men to use social for stupid reasons, and that happens. So that's what I would recommend you do if folks are really getting to that like annoying stage.
Yeah, definitely. And I can attest to that. You just got to be
Yeah,
smart and figure people
yeah.
out.
You can see it coming a mile away when the conversations go from
Absolutely.
hey, where do you work, to hey, what are you wearing, at work.
Yeah,
It starts to get a little creepy, right? Let's keep it professional.
absolutely. We've got a few more questions, and we're running pretty close to three. If you're okay, we can run past three. It's completely fine.
Yeah,
I'll leave that up to
that'd
you.
be fine. If folks are willing to stay on, I'd be happy to answer a few more questions until they run out.
Perfect. Damali has a question. She says, "Do you suggest an account for personal and one for professional?"
Well, yeah, I do. It's just too easy for those accounts to cross the line. And it's very difficult to know what your stuff is sharing to which networks. You can certainly lock that stuff down in Facebook in some ways by creating groups, but most people don't go to the research effort that's required for groups. So what I would recommend you do is have two accounts. A number of my customers around Bloomington are realtors. They do not want their personal stuff mixing with their real estate life, but they understand that Facebook is a great way to push out listings to folks that are in the Bloomington area. And a lot of these realtors have been doing it for 40 years. They have thousands of friends and connections, and so that is a really important way to let someone know that there's a $200,000 home for sale on High Street. Uh, they want that information pushed out. So I typically recommend that folks split split those. Have a personal account, have a professional account.
Absolutely, Jared. Donna Ware says, "Is Instagram the best social media today?" And Robert Bowen said that Facebook is number one, Instagram's number two, and Twitter is number three. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
Instagram is just absolutely exploding. It really is a great place to start looking at how to develop a brand. Now, I will warn you about Instagram in that the demographics of Instagram are bleak for the professional. Um, so you have to be aware that the demographic that you typically will find in the Instagram world is the under 25, even almost under 30 demographic. I remember I was traveling with a friend. We went up to a shaved ice place to get some shaved ice. It was burning hot, and we were out somewhere west. And we asked the guy behind the counter, "Where's a great place to eat?" And he said, "Well, just do a search on Instagram, and you'll find a couple places around here." And my friend and I kind of walked away, and we thought, why the heck would we why the heck would we do any searches on Instagram? There's nothing on Instagram that appeals to me. I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to go to Foursquare. I'm going to go to some other social network to find some review. But in his world, Instagram was that place to go. So as a business, Instagram is a visual medium, and you can be in that visual medium as long as you can manage the care and feeding of Instagram, because it is visual, man, visual. So just be aware of that as you're getting into to Instagram. It is not nearly as highly uh, touted for the business professional. and for those connections, but it is definitely a good way to get information out and to have that cachet, that appearance of hipness. If you want that, Instagram is the place to be.
I can completely agree with that. We use Instagram for Connect, but we use it in different ways than we would use Facebook. So
Sure,
it's really, it's just how you use it. It's for completely different things, I think.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Robert Brown asked, what's number 4? LinkedIn?
Say that again in terms of where you should go. So, well, Facebook.
What would be the 4th best social media today?
Well, gosh, strangely, it seems to me like Snapchat is one of those crazy new mediums that it's like the Wild West. People don't really know what to do with it, but people who are using Snapchat, like I saw a Snapchat example of live broadcasting from, where was it? Pensacola, Florida. And it was fascinating. There were these great live broadcasts that people were pushing through via Snapchat to their stories that were then being brought in to the organizational push of these live streams, and you could get these great street views of what was happening in Pensacola, Florida. And so Snapchat is really one of those new things. A lot of people don't know what the heck to do with it, but businesses everywhere want to get to those demographics because that 25 and under crowd, they use Snapchat. I mean, and they're using 30 other similar tools like Snapchat, but Snapchat is just absolutely exploding. So I don't know if I would say it's 4th. I know Google Plus is gone. I mean, no one's using it. Google has even admitted that they don't use it. So it's an interesting world right now because the Snapchats, the Instagrams, Facebook is actually going through some revamps on how they market because they know people are using their messaging tools more than they are using their actual posting and content tools. So just be aware of that as you choose that line of strategies for your personal brand.
Definitely. And we actually just got onto Snapchat.
It's got some neat features, it really does have some neat features.
It really
the
does.
over 30 crowd is not ready for those features. But I tell you what, my kids walk into me every day and show some new face filter that they have on Snapchat, and they turn me into like a geisha doll, or they put like a Bob Marley face on me or something. And these things are highly addictive to the kids. I mean, my 9-year-old son sent me 15 Snapchats yesterday of 15 different pictures of his face distorted, right? So these kids are using Snapchat. So how do you use it in business?
And we're experimenting with that, and
Sure,
we're looking at what other businesses are doing, and especially how you can use it for events. Events can be very visual.
Yes, they're very visual.
Yeah, but you don't want to clutter Instagram with it. So it's just like in the moment. I think Snapchat will be great for events. So we're experimenting with that. I'm going to end on I'm going to take maybe one more question. So Elena Poppin, she works in ministry, and they use social media to promote their events throughout the year. Is that considered selling? It seems to be effective in attracting attendance, etc.
No, it's not selling because people expect it from you. If you're an event company not publishing events, something's wrong. So people, when users and high users in social media see that, high influencers in social media see that you're pushing out an event, the trick of pushing that event and doing it in a way that you're not selling is the language that you use in how you're pushing the event. So the hard sell event, caps locks, things flashing, those are turnoffs. The basic event push of, hey, we would love it if you could push this out to your social network. The Midwestern appeal, if you will, that goes a long way. People love that type of appeal. It is not invasive to what they feel is an invasive appeal. So that's the way to push that stuff through social. And the other piece of it is to make it interesting. The more interesting you can make it, the more funny you can make it. Some people often will push out an event and then request video responses to the publish to what they've posted, and that is a great way for viral content to be developed. For example, if you're having a costume party at the event, if you're having something, people can dress up in the costume. They might come in, and then they can push a video response to your post. That becomes fun. That gives it a massive amount of viral lift, and it's a low sell technique. You're turning something that is essentially a sales piece into something fun. So think of modeling it that way as you push out your events.
Well, thanks, Jared. And I'm going to go ahead and close there with questions, if that's okay.
That's fine. Everyone, thank you so much for logging in today. I appreciate your involvement, and some of the comments. I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. They were so funny. So thank you very much for being involved. Haley, thank you so much for having me and for communicating and coordinating all this.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jared, for being here and sharing your knowledge with us today.
I loved it. I'm coming to the event in Texas in August, so everyone book your tickets now and come to the event, and we'll hang out.
Yes.
I will be fully clothed, though. I will not present in my underwear. I know many of you have already requested that. It's not happening.
We're going to have to create a dress code, I guess.
It could happen, but probably won't.
Well, thanks, Jared. I'm going to close out. As I mentioned, or as he just mentioned, you can see Jared speak in person at our annual Connect Marketplace show, which is happening August 25th through 27th in Grapevine, Texas. Learn more about Connect Marketplace at connectmarketplace.com or contact Michael Vada at mvada@connectmeetings.com, who can share more about our other shows. Jared, would you mind flipping to that next slide so they can see
Absolutely.
our shows? So there are our shows, and you can contact Michael Vada if you have any questions on that. If you'd mind flipping to the next screen for me.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You can learn about Connect's past and upcoming webinars on all of our websites listed on your screen right now. Anyone watching live, you'll receive an email tomorrow with your certificate of attendance. If you're watching this session on demand, please email me at hpanagakis@connectmeetings.com to obtain your certificate. Thanks again to everyone for attending, and we hope you'll join us on May 25th for Why the Traditional Team Building Model is Broken and What to Do Instead, which will be presented by another Connect Marketplace speaker, Nick Ganulis, with the Fund Department, and which is sponsored by Visit Lubbock. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you so much, Haley.